Now, I'm sure a lot of you guys are already aware that rapper Jeezy has filed for divorce from Jeannie, his wife. So I decided to use this as an opportunity to talk about some of the bad aspects and Synastry, aspects that you should avoid when it comes to partnering up with someone. So let's get started. So first, I'm going to talk about some of the aspects in Jeezy's chart. Now, his birth number is a 28, and 28s are very much about the come up. And he has come up, in a short period of time when he first came on the scene. I think it was like 2006, maybe. Correct me if I'm wrong. But having associations that can contribute to these come ups, that's very important with a 28. And 28s may feel like they can always do better. So keep that in mind as I get into one particular aspect in his chart. And 28s, they can be too trusting. So keep that in mind as well when it comes to this relationship with Jeannie. So Jeezy is a Libra. Libra rules relationships. So that already just makes him vulnerable to being in a bad relationship. All it takes is one challenging aspect involving his son for that to happen. So he has Sun square Jupiter. He has Sun quincunx Chiron. He has, those are the two challenging aspects involving his son. Unfortunately, I don't have his birth time, so I can't talk about the house placements. So again, Jeezy's sun in Libra is squaring Jupiter in Cancer, and this aspect right here is a big part of his problem. This can produce issues with women in general. So on one hand, this square can manifest as an overbearing wife. But on the other hand, it can result in race being a big deal in relationships with Cancer ruling race. Also, he could allow race to dominate his choice of mate because we're talking about Jupiter in Cancer. So the power of Jupiter can overwhelm the power of the sun. So that sun in Libra, that's about his choice of mate, relationships, and that square involving Jupiter in Cancer, he could be allowing race to dominate his choice of mate to his detriment. So basically, this shows that he desired a non-Black woman, but picked the wrong one. And with Jupiter in Cancer, he could have a thing for Asian chicks or just chicks who he considers to be exotic. Also, you could look at this square as the grass is greener on the other side aspect. Also, this could produce challenges with co-parenting. Now, he also has a quincunx between his Libra sun and Chiron in Taurus. And with this, he may compromise his values and standards when in a relationship or marriage. And that has recently come up in this situation where it's saying now that the reason why they're divorcing is because their family values are not aligned. So this quincunx in his natal chart is pointing to that issue. Also, this can produce money problems in a marriage. He could lose a lot of money in divorce. And I already heard that Jeannie is contesting the prenuptial agreement. Could suffer from poor self-esteem when in a relationship or marriage. Not feeling valued by partner or spouse. Why men with faces like that always do that line up like that with their facial hair? I don't know. It's kind of annoying to me. It reminds me of somebody. Now, his moon and south node in Aries are opposing Pluto and the north node. So this could produce a struggle between his individual needs and the demands of a relationship or marriage. Basically, once he gets married, it's like his individual needs no longer matter. So this square can make it very hard to achieve balance between his individual needs and the needs of the relationship. or the demands, more so demands and demands of his partner. Was reluctant to go through with the marriage once they got engaged. Now, I was watching a video from RRG, and she was basically saying that they stretched out the engagement. They kept making excuses for not, going through with the marriage just yet. And then they eventually got married. But this is representing his reluctance, because when you got Moon and Aries conjoined to that Aries South Node, there's a strong need to maintain a large portion of your individuality. Facing temptation to cheat. Now, a man that has Moon in Aries, he could get bored with a woman really quickly. So that Moon in Aries can make him prone to seek out new women. Also, lacking control in his home. He has Mars in Cancer, which is another big issue, because Mars in Cancer can produce conflict with women. Mars in Cancer square Moon, South Node in Aries, as well as Pluto and the North Node in Libra, and this comprises a T-square in his chart. So basically, this is representing his battles with women, and it could even translate into domestic violence situations, whether he's initiating it or Jeannie is initiating it. In this case, I would say it's Jeannie, because he has that Cancer Moon. I'm sorry, Moon in Aries and Mars in Cancer. So that square alone, on one hand, it can deal with an abusive man, but it can also deal with a woman that is abusive. Racial conflict, especially in terms of self-hate. So I'm looking at some of these aspects in Jeezy's chart, and it does look like he could be dealing with some self-hate, which would explain why he chose to date outside of his race. This is an issue that a lot of Black men have. So he seems like he's one of those ones. But he might be thinking differently now. Racial slurs or slights hurled at him from his partner. So this is very possible. Mars in Cancer could deal with someone that attacks your race. And then when you have this Moon squaring Mars in Cancer, that could be racial slurs or slights. So I wouldn't be surprised if she said some things that really made him feel some type of way, some racially incendiary things. Having to defend himself against partner's attacks. Partner threatens to leave or cheat. Again, that line, I've seen quite a few men with a head shape like that, where they got that same line up with their beard and mustache. I guess, it does fit that face, but. So Jeezy's Juno is at the 27th degree of Scorpio. And basically, Juno is an asteroid that represents some of the major issues in a marriage, some of the major issues that a person has with their mate. So jealousy, hate, distrust, infidelity, issues with joint finances, issues with power, issues with control, and the potential for abuse. So let's get into Jeannie Mai's chart real briefly, because this is more so about their synastry, but I want to talk about some of the aspects that's in their individual charts that contribute to the problems in the relationship. So Jeannie was born January 4th, 1979, and that 4 can make her friendly, but also very willful. It can make her very much about doing what she wants, even if it means at the expense of someone else's happiness. That 4 can be a little rough when the person doesn't get their way. And that entitlement comes with 4, because it's very much like Aquarius, Uranus energy. So she's a Capricorn with Sun conjunct Mars. That's a big part of the issue. Now, Jeannie has Sun conjunct Mars in Capricorn in her chart. And this is basically her desiring a Black man, marrying a Black man, because Capricorn rules the color black. So even though Capricorn doesn't rule the Black race per se, when that term Black, the word Black comes up, it will be represented in the chart through Capricorn. Both the Sun and Mars rule men. And then you could look at Mars alone as the pursuit. So you could look at this as the pursuit of a Black man, or even where a Black man is pursuing her. But the key word for Mars in this case would be pursuit. But the Sun and Mars can represent desire as well. So, and she did mention that she liked dark meat, but she said on the side. She was making a joke when she was on the reel. So this Mars-Sun conjunction can produce anger management issues. So she basically was in an interview where she was talking about her anger issues and how she didn't realize she had them until she got with Jeezy. Now, women that have this conjunction, anger could be directed towards a man, and they could even physically abuse a man. I know of 2 cases of women that have this conjunction in their charts that have shot their men. One was successful in killing her man. The other one, she just shot and wounded him. But yeah, women that have this conjunction a lot of times will be very aggressive, very assertive. If not aggressive, at least assertive, and be very focused on what they need. And in Capricorn, it's very much about what a man can do for her. Now, Sun conjunct Mars in Capricorn can make her overly ambitious and opportunistic, but also controlling, cruel, severe, and mean. So she will attack or belittle her man-eater aspect. That's what this conjunction can be seen as. Not in all cases, but if it's channeled into the dark side of it, yes. Also, it's about what you can do for her, not so much love, like I said before. And also with this conjunction, respect is a major theme when it comes to men. So once she loses her respect for a man, it's over. Now, she might stay with him, but she's going to belittle him. She's going to degrade him and all that.
He ever called me out on it. I didn't notice that I had a hot temper until I got with Jeezy. And here's a person who is my equal and I really respect. And when I would spew some of my old habits, and he was like, like, ooh, that's not flying here. And also, it would trigger him to come back at me with things where I was like, what the fuck do you think you are?
Okay, so that was her statement about her hot temper and how Jeezy basically had to put her in check for it. And I'm sure she respected him as a result of putting her in check. But after a while, that Sun-Mars conjunction could win out in her favor, where she just becomes this domineering, cruel, vicious, belittling woman when she doesn't get her way. And people that have Sun conjunct Mars, a lot of times they need to get their way. Most of the time, if not all of the time. And in her picture, she doesn't look like a nice person, really. So she has Sun and Mars in Capricorn squaring Pluto and Libra. So basically, anybody she gets with that is within her age group, and we're talking about 3 years younger, 3 years older, their Pluto is going to square her Sun and Mars. So it's very hard for her to get away from that unless she gets with somebody who's significantly younger or older than her. That's something to keep in mind if you have a heavy planet like Pluto afflicting a personal planet in your chart. So with this square, she could have serious control issues involving men, starting with the father, being hated, severely judged, can't be in a balanced relationship. And with these squares, she should just remain single. She's been married twice, but she'll probably try to get married a third time. But if she really wants peace in her life, she should just remain single from here on out. Also, this can produce the potential for abuse. Operating undercover, can't be trusted. So that could either be her or it could be the man that she's dealing with. Can attract no good, unfaithful men. Some could have criminal tendencies. And you could view this as a Black Widow aspect. Now, both of her husbands are still alive. Her ex-husband and her soon-to-be ex, they're still alive. But she could devastate them to a point where they do feel like they're dead. Sun semi-square Venus. Can be very jealous when in a relationship with that Venus being in Scorpio. But this could also play out as ongoing infidelity, whether it's on her part or her partner's. Issues with values. I'm sorry, she looked like a bitch. So she has Venus conjunct Uranus and Scorpio. With this could be where a partner tries to change her or vice versa, where she tries to change her partner. It can manifest as a tumultuous, toxic relationship because of the Scorpio influence, where she's being objectified. So I wouldn't be surprised if Jeezy did objectify her in the beginning simply because she's Asian and she's seen as the preference or the prize. Interference from friends. So she could allow her friends to interfere in her marriage, or she could attract a mate who allows their friends to interfere in the marriage. Friends with benefits possible, and this could be infidelity, and I'm talking about ongoing infidelity, and it could be on her part. And this conjunction can produce lesbian tendencies, so I wouldn't be surprised if she has some experience in that department. Changes in child or spousal support amount. So it's already been reported that she's contesting the divorce and that she's contesting the prenuptial agreement. So yeah, don't be surprised if they're back and forth in court. Now she looks very nice here, but she's still giving off that bitch vibe. So she got Mercury and Sagittarius squaring her Pisces South Node and Virgo North Node. And with these squares, her mouth can get her into trouble due to being too blunt and tactless. So she made this comment when she was on The Real. I believe that's where she was when she made this comment about how she likes dark meat, but on the side. And she was basically implying that she likes Black men, but only as side pieces. Can be dishonest, secretive, could have loose morals, can be neurotic and easily peeved, resulting in blow-ups, tendency to lose her mind when things don't go as planned. Now, Jeannie's Juno is at the 23rd degree of Aquarius. So friendships are a major theme in terms of her relationship or her marriage. And this reinforces that Venus-Uranus conjunction where I was saying friendships could get in the way of her marriage. Also, entitlement, independence. So she could want a lot of independence despite being married, or she could have a problem with her partner being independent, too independent. Also, this could represent the fans of her partner. Jeezy being a rapper, of course, he got fans, and some of them are females. Social media, and Jeezy was the one that came out on social media first about him filing for divorce, and he was like, I'm moving forward in my life, and said something like, even though I'm not bringing you with me, or something like that. Drastic changes taking place in a marriage. So here they are right here with the blue ensemble. They look cute right here. So let's get into this synastry. So again, I'm doing this video to highlight some of the deal breaker aspects in a synastry to look for when it comes to choosing a mate. So for instance, Jeezy's Pluto is squaring Jeannie's Sun. That alone, deal breaker. If you see that in a synastry, and especially it's tight, it's at the 0 degree, 0, 0 degree, 8 minutes separating. I mean, that's tight, tight, tight. So when you see an aspect like that, that should automatically tell you this relationship is not going to work. It doesn't matter how nice the person seems and how good the two of you are getting along. Most of the time, things are great in the beginning. All right, so let's get into some of these problematic aspects. So Jeannie's Pluto is conjoined to Jeezy's North Node. So this echoes his natal conjunction. So he has Pluto conjoined to his North Node in Libra in his chart. And with that, it can basically fulfill his destiny regarding being in a toxic, abusive, bad marriage. So you can basically say this marriage had to happen for Jeezy to learn some hard lessons, especially in terms of decision making and the choice of a mate. Issues with power, control, distrust, joint finances, infidelity. Now, his Pluto in Libra squares her Sun and Mars in Capricorn, and this echoes her natal squares, and that's because they were born within a few years of each other, 2 years to be exact. So that Pluto, his Pluto is close enough where it's going to square her Sun and Mars, and that's what I'm talking about. Like, if you know you got Sun square Pluto in your chart, try to avoid getting with somebody who is within your age group, because usually it's not going to end well. So you ever wonder why some people get with people who are significantly younger or older than them? It's because unconsciously they know this. Now, some of them might have other reasons, but a lot of times, you know, if those relationships work out, it's because of that significant age difference. They were able to avoid a challenging square like this. So these squares can produce a tumultuous marriage and hatred on his part. Now, he would probably say that she would do things with other men, especially when she was on the job or dealing with successful men, to make him jealous. Also, this can represent his unsuccessful attempts to control her or maintain control. Now, it might seem like I'm putting most of the blame on Jeannie. I'm putting a lot of blame on Jeezy as well, because he got controlling tendencies as well, and he could be very selfish and self-absorbed and just want things to go his way. Belittling and degrading him. So Jeannie belittling and degrading him, remember, with that Sun and Mars in Capricorn, could have tempted him to cheat. Now, his dark side could come out when she would become too controlling. And this is representing him canceling her because it's his Pluto, and him basically saying, I'm done, it's over. He looks a little traumatized right here, and she looked very satisfied. Like, yeah, I had to check his ass while we were in the car. He looking like, what the hell have I gotten myself into? Now, her Pluto in Libra is squaring his Mars in Cancer. And remember, I said Mars in Cancer alone can play out as conflicts with women. So this is one of the worst aspects for Synastry. It should be seen as a deal breaker. Now, case in point, his Pluto is squaring her Mars and Sun, but just Mars square Pluto in a Synastry, that's one of the worst aspects to have in a Synastry. So when you see it, you should run like hell. So again, one of the worst aspects for Synastry, and they got it in both. They got it both ways. So his Mars is squaring her Pluto. Her Mars is squaring his Pluto. So that alone, see, that lets you know that they didn't consult an astrologer before they decide to get married, because any astrologer that's worth their salt would have pointed that out and said, nah, this ain't going to work. Now, this represents what she said about how he would trigger her as a result of her triggering him. So this is like Mars acts as the trigger. And you see, again, they have it on both sides. Her Mars squaring his Pluto, his Mars squaring her Pluto. So Mars acts as the trigger for a negative response from the other person's Pluto. And it brings great potential for abuse. Now, she would probably say that he was always in his own little world with his Mars being in Cancer. He most likely didn't want to engage in most social activities with her. So this square can represent a man that you have to drag to events or even bribe him to go along with you. She could have threatened to leave him or harm him on occasion. And he just jumped the gun and was like, you know what? I'm going to give you what you want. I'm going to file for divorce. Now, they look absolutely ridiculous right here. They look like they are, representatives of the nation Bahrain, but false representatives. Like, I don't know what the hell they were thinking right here. They look like they're leaders of some type of cult. One of those space cults where they believe they're going to get carried off in a spaceship before the world gets destroyed. But yeah, that's a bad look. That's a sign right there. This marriage was doomed for failure. All right, so her Pluto and Libra opposing his moon in Aries. So this echoes his natal opposition. So she was a negative influence over his personality and emotionality. He began to view her as a threat. He had little to no control over how the household was run. That's what I'm suspecting with this opposition. And this can show that she disregarded his individual needs. It can show that she did not trust him at all, and probably for a good reason. She could have spied on him, could have even hired a private investigator at some point, and she could have been a stalker. And she could still be. She could be pulling up on him right now, low key, seeing what he got going on. Also, this could be where she caught him cheating, a nasty battle in divorce court. And again, already she's contesting what he wants. She may try to drag his name through the mud, especially since she's getting a bunch of flack right now. A lot of people are siding with Jeezy right now. Now, again, he has this deer in the headlights type of look, like, what have I gotten myself into? And she looks totally content right now because she got her man under control with that Sun conjunct Mars squaring Pluto. Now, on one hand, it could result in her attracting a controlling man. This is where I got to cut her some slack. Because on one hand, that square between her Sun and Mars and Pluto, that can cause her to attract a controlling and abusive man. It doesn't give her much choices when it comes to men, attracting good men, that is. So she really has to control her man. She has to get with a man that she can wield a high degree of control over, actually. But a lot of men, especially men that are very self-determined, aren't going to be down for that. They're not going to be on board for that for a long period of time, which is why this marriage didn't last long at all. But again, in her defense, she doesn't have much choice. Either she's going to get with a man she can control, or she's going to get with a man that's very controlling and abusive. But yeah, she looked quite satisfied right now because it looked like she put him in check prior to this photo being taken. Now, his Pluto and Libra semi-square her Venus and Scorpio. Now, he could have suspected her of cheating. And with her Venus and Scorpio, there's a high chance she could be a cheater, but that can always be projected onto her partner where he's the cheater. Now, he may have felt that he could never fully trust her, represents her outside activities that trigger jealousy or resentment within him. Now, his Saturn and Leo square her Venus and Uranus and Scorpio. This is one of the aspects that led to Jeezy divorcing Jeannie. And this shows that she had a tendency to bruise his ego. He may take issues with how she deals with their child. So remember, one of the things that came out was that they have conflicts involving family values. And she may not have been accepting of his other children because he had 3 children prior to having a child with her. Now, his Saturn in Leo is forming a sesqui square with her Sun in Scorpio. Now, he would probably say that she would treat him like a child, belittle him, and undermine his authority. His need to exercise his free will was not fulfilled. And when you have Saturn in Leo, I have Saturn in Leo, so I could definitely relate. You have a strong need to exercise your free will because when you were a child, you probably couldn't exercise your free will like you wanted to. Now, she is probably very controlling when it comes to his involvement with their child. So here they are when they were all in love. And here he is kissing her pregnant belly. Oh, how sweet. How sweet it is until shit goes sour. She needed a serious refill right here. But you know, we all have our bad days. But I like people that, you know, they allow themselves to get a little rough around the edges and they don't always have to look picture perfect. Now, her Neptune in Sagittarius square his Mercury in Virgo. This is representing Jeezy catching her in lies. And Jeannie would be vague. And Jeezy needs detailed information with his Mercury in Virgo. So that's basically him becoming frustrated over her being vague about things. She had him confused and bewildered at times. She would probably gaslight him. She could have embarrassed or humiliated him at times. Now, this is another square that I consider to be a deal breaker because you can't really defend yourself against the power of Neptune. So it's like you're constantly being gaslighted, you're constantly being lied to, you're constantly being kept in the dark about what's really going on with the person. Also, there could be embarrassment and humiliation, like I said. Also, she may not have been paying him any mind, as if what he says doesn't matter. So this is like what he says falls on her deaf ears, or where she's just totally overlooking it. She's not even giving it any importance, brushing shit off all the time. Now, her drinking or drug use, this is speculation on my part, could have been an issue for him. This is a nice picture. But she looked like she intoxicated right here. So that very much that. And he looked straight like an arrow. So this is very much dealing with her Neptune squaring his Mercury. Now, her Sun and Mars in Capricorn opposing his Mars in Cancer. So this is another aspect that you really want to think twice about, unless you could find a good reason for it in the relationship. But usually when someone's Mars is opposing your Mars, there's going to be this lack of cohesiveness. It's going to be hard to operate on the same page. So this shows that they're at odds in terms of their modes of operation, desires, personas, and sexual proclivities, perhaps. So with Mars in Cancer, Jeezy has Mars in Cancer. It's like he wants sex to be close and sensitive, and he probably really likes the missionary position and all that. And with her Sun and Mars in Capricorn, she's more inclined towards the BDSM type of sex. So she probably wanted to whip his ass and stuff, and he probably wanted more of a gentle, sensitive touch. Jeezy may have begun to feel emasculated in this marriage. She tried to will total control over the household. And when you have Mars in Cancer, a lot of times there will be some conflict in the home. Now, this is a man who needs his own cave. So he probably had to create a man cave after a while dealing with her just so he could get some peace. Now, her Mars in Capricorn is squaring his moon in Aries. Now, she was abrasive and at times abusive towards Jeezy. And this sort of echoes his yeah, it does, because he got Mars, moon square Mars in his natal chart. So this echoes one of the aspects in his natal chart, which basically just exacerbates the aspect, or exacerbates the potential problems that the aspect can produce. Excuse me, it's early in the morning. So she was abrasive and at times abusive towards Jeezy, perhaps, because this is speculation on my part. She was not allowing Jeezy to do his own thing at times. And again, belittling him. Jeezy feeling forced to defend himself. Now, the Aries moon, again, Jeezy has his moon in Aries, won out over her Mars in Capricorn. And she got moon in Aries too. Well, she could. I don't know what time she was born. But with that big head she got, I would say she does have moon in Aries. But in his case, his moon in Aries won out over her Mars in Capricorn. Jeezy may not have met a new woman who helped him gain Jeezy may have met a new woman who helped him to gain the strength to file for divorce. And the reason why I'm saying that is because a lot of times when a man gets divorced, it is where it's dealing with another woman, or in some cases, he could be so miserable. But a lot of times men don't want to leave a situation that they've grown accustomed to. But if a new woman steps on the scene, and that moon in Aries can represent a new woman, she could have gave him the strength or motivation to file for divorce. And it's over. So his Mercury in Virgo squaring her Mercury in Sagittarius, not seeing eye to eye, divergent points of view. This is another square. Now, I'm not going to say it's a deal breaker, but it's going to be very hard to have, harmony in terms of mindset, to have peaceful, productive communication between one another when one's Mercury is squaring the other's Mercury. So again, not seeing eye to eye, having divergent points of view. And in this case, with his Mercury in Virgo, he's prone to view things from a small picture perspective. With her Mercury in Sagittarius, she's prone to view things from a big picture perspective. Clash of communication styles. So with his Mercury in Virgo, he's very detail oriented. And with her Mercury in Sagittarius, she's basically about the gist of it. So she might say certain things in a very broad way. And she's like, okay, you could get the gist of what I'm saying. And he's like, no, I need details. I need you to spell it out. This can produce a lot of bickering back and forth and snappy comebacks. She could joke about or make light of Jeezy's issues. He could have tried to knock her off of her high horse, quite a bit too. She could take advantage of his helpful nature. Now, his sun in Libra, semi-square her Uranus in Scorpio. Her friends could have been an annoyance for Jeezy. It makes me think, she makes me think of, she's the type of wife that would have her friends over. She's talking trash about him while he's in the other room. And then when he comes in the room where they're at, they all get silent. And then they just look and they snicker and they're giggling and stuff like that. So it seems like she's the type that would trash her man to her friends. And then, he's up on that game. And then next thing you know, they arguing about it. Jeannie was cold and indifferent towards Jeezy at times. She could have threatened to divorce him first. So again, I wouldn't be surprised if she was threatening him first. And he was like, okay, I'm going to give you what you want. I'm filing for divorce. But he probably did it in a low, silent way once she started putting it out there first. Now, she most likely won't be satisfied with the amount she will be awarded in child or spousal support. So again, remember, the news has already came out that she's contesting the divorce. So that concludes the reading on Jeezy and Jeannie. Let me know what you think in the comments section. I'll be back with some more videos. If you would like a reading, you could go to my website. The link is in the description section. Also, consider becoming a member of my Patreon channel. I posted this video to Patreon first, so you will get first viewing of the videos that I'm posting. I also post videos on Patreon that you won't get on YouTube because YouTube is so restrictive now. But yeah, so stay tuned for more videos. I got a sponsored video coming. I got actually a handful of sponsored videos coming up, so stay tuned for that. Peace.